How's it going, everyone? So I figured we'd do the mandatory YouTube table mounting. Here's the problem with that. My table is a little tall. This is a small rototiller. I put the tines on there. This is what I have to do. I don't know what you guys do. We push it. Nope, maybe not. Wrong way. There we are. Probably a help if I put the brakes on it, but whatever. We're good. Okay. Well, we don't need to see this part. How's it going, everyone? So we got it up. So now, I know. We have this Troy Bilt, I don't know, it's probably some pony. It's a 5-horsepower engine, Briggs & Stratton, that has, I don't know. This is what I know so far. I know the transmission has oil. I know the engine has oil. And it's been sitting in the side of my house for about 6 months or even longer, until springtime comes around, and springtime is knocking on the door in a couple weeks, so we're going to look at it and see what happens. So let's see what's going on. I just took a quick little sniff of the fuel tank, and it smells horrible. So we are going to assume that that's not okay. Now, I understand we probably need to check for spark, and that's what every other person on YouTube does. But we're going to skip that step, and we're going to go directly to compression and timing and just see if the engine's okay. It is in neutral. The belt is, this is a belt-driven machine, so the belt is loose. It's pretty easy to check that. This filter is completely stuck on there. It's not bad, but we can get a better one. Okay. So, let's see if it has compression first. Leaf. Has compression. Some of these have a clutch and some of them do not. And luckily for us, this is a newer model, well, new-ish model, and it does not have a clutch. If it did have a clutch, we most definitely would be cleaning it. But we don't have to worry about that. How you can tell is there is a, I can see the dogs inside the recoil. In addition to that, I don't see a clutch. So, give a little bit of assistance. We don't want choke. We want, like, I don't know, 3/4 throttle. Sounds pretty good. Over time, that might fix itself. If not, we might put a little WD-40 into the spring, just kind of lubricate it. It will go back, no problem. So, I think what we have here is potentially a really bad fuel tank and carburetor cleaning. So, maybe a little lower, about half a tank. So what we need to do is, luckily this is a newer one. We know that because of clutch. It should be pretty easy to take it off, so let's go ahead and do so. One thing I do have to ask your assistance for, how does this sound? I ask that because I get quite a bit of comments saying that sound is meh at best. So we now have a very expensive set of microphones. Was it Rode? I don't know. Let me look. Yeah, Rode. That supposedly is good. If not, then I know it's on the camera. It has to be the software. So if you can help me, I mean you, I'd be much appreciative of it, because I'm not against upgrading my software. I might just do that anyway because it might be a good idea. So, we have a fairly newer style, which we expected, so I'm not too concerned over that. However, the linkages on this can be a little difficult, to say the least, if you're unaware of how they go on. So we're gonna be careful of that. Let me show you. So the top here is the choke, has that linkage. The bottom here is the full and idle and kill and all that. We need to remember that this little Z bend or Z bend goes into this piece, which we're going to take this piece off so you can see it better. But this little linkage right here that doesn't have all this nonsense on it, it goes to the choke. So in addition to that, where we're going to be removing this, we need to pay attention to how that comes off, because if you put it on wrong, you're just going to be binding, and nothing good happens when you bind. Well, at least not for this. And that's not the right size. Wow, that wasn't even that tight. There's a couple screws on here. That also wasn't even that tight. That was. Just one through the carb. That's a long screw. Let's get a pair of needle nose. And let's take off this screw. This throttle plate might be a little difficult to take off. Sometimes it gets a little stuck. There we go. So this is the kill wire. You just have to pull or push down a little tab and it comes right out. At least it should. If it doesn't, then you have a problem. However, we do want to keep an eye on this kill wire because it does have a tendency of kind of getting shoved into a corner and getting forgotten about. We are at a crossroads. What do we do? Well, there is a, I believe it's a 3/8 or 7/16. Let's take a look. 3/8 bolt on the bottom of the tank, and that bolt is going to hold the tank in place. But in addition to that, the carburetor holds the tank in place. So what we're going to do, I know it's off camera, but I'm going to take the bolt out because we're going to need to take this fuel out. And there's also a spring and whatnot we need to pay attention to, but we're not going to worry about that. What we do need to worry about, though, is this. This piece right here can be a real pain. So we need to pay attention. The long piece is right here, short piece is right there, and the short piece is connected to the governor linkage. Now we also need to pay attention to this screw that we're taking out. It has a sleeve on it. It's pretty important. We don't want to lose that. In addition to that, there's also this piece right here, which just has a flathead. Can't find a short one. I'll just use the longest one in the garage. We also need to pay attention. There's another linkage that goes to it. However, that one I might just kind of dangle off to the side depending on if I can. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. But what is important is there is a little piece that loves to fall out. I'll show it to you. Here we go. That goes in between the metal bracket and the carburetor. So we do not want to lose that or this tiny little screw. A lot of these screws you can definitely just buy at your local hardware store. That's not one of them, at least not easily. So now we should be almost ready to take out the carburetor, except I did leave one screw in there intentionally. Actually, let me leave that back in there because that is the last one. What I'm going to do next is I need to take off the mounting bolts for this carburetor. Now the top one's not too difficult because you can get a, what is this, a T30 maybe? Yeah, T30 will fit in there. So that's not a problem. However, the one on the bottom is a 3/8. So what you need to do is you need to very carefully and patiently take out the 3/8. I don't know about you, but patience and YouTube don't necessarily work out very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a little time, take the bolt out, and then we'll take out this one, and when it comes out, I'll bring it back. Two things I want to bring up about this screw. If you have an old one, this is not going to be a fun experience. They did not leave you a whole lot of room. However, majority of the time, because this is not really a hot area, at least it shouldn't be, it comes out pretty easily. In fact, I just maybe spun it like 2 full revolutions with my 3/8 wrench, and the whole bolt came out. So that's good. So I'm going to take out the other one, and then we'll be back. Okay. We're going to want to hold on to it now. Like I said, there is a spring and a linkage. Oh, we lost that. That's fine. So this black piece on the bottom has the linkage. Might just take this out of the governor arm. There we go. And the spring comes with it. Okay. So now we have the tank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clean bottle and put the fuel in the tank, and we're going to take a look at it. This is the color of the fuel that came out of it. That's not good. However, two things that are occurring right now. One, doesn't have water in it. I can tell. It's kind of a miracle, especially where I had put it. But the tank, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, has like little to no rust in there. Usually when this happens, we just have rust everywhere. So that's a good thing. Rusty tank is a long process. No rust tank is a fairly good process. We just have to rebuild the carburetor potentially, or clean it out. Maybe even both. But let's get started on that, shall we? I mean, maybe you do, but you really have no idea how excited I am to hear that there was no rust in this tank, or at least none that I can tell. So that is a special type of project, if I'm sure you're aware. So you can clean it, you can take care of it, you can do all that nonsense. Problem is that it's going to come back unless you go through a lot of work to prevent it, and majority of people don't. So I can put Valpo rust in there, I can spin it around with bolts and stuff and pressure wash it and pour 45 or 15 or whatever the number is in there and clean it out. It's just not a good thing. Okay. So we have this linkage on there, which I'm going to just take off the carburetor right now. If I could. There we go. This gasket actually doesn't look bad at all. You know, I would not be surprised If this wasn't cleaned previously and was running, because I literally took this off, no problem. I think we're going to look at a little bit closer at the carb. Not all of the problems with this carburetor comes from this piece that we're going to take a look at next, but a vast majority of them do. Because what this is kind of like a fuel pump. So this, oops, there's the linkage. This is the actual fuel tank area. This is actually kind of like a little holding area for the fuel. And this is in the little holding area for the fuel. And what happens is the fuel tank might get a little grit in there, but this pickup tube doesn't go all the way to the bottom. Kind of helps it a little bit, but that also wasn't tight. But what can happen over time is there's a piece of like rubber in here. It's a diaphragm that moves with the pulse of the engine to help move the fuel back and forth. And if it gets hard, then it doesn't do its job. And you can fill this tank up with as much fuel as you want, and it will not work. You do need to be a little careful with this. You do want to be careful because you don't want to warp it or bend it. It's usually a place to pry. Ow. That worked. Kind of got me, but whatever. This wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible either. What I'm going to do is I need to turn on my air compressor. We're going to blow through all the holes. This isn't screaming bad jets. It's screaming bad fuel, especially since looking down that little crevice, we might do a little bit more. However, what we do need to do, pay attention when that springs fell, is we need to tighten this. We have half, one, a little over one. We might do 1.5 when we redo it. When tuning these, it's better to be a little on the rich end than it is on the lean end. Okay, so these carburetors come with a very wide range of options. Sometimes you have what we have, and then other times you have like a little kind of like a little removable jet, and then you have other ones you just don't have anything that's removable except for the screw itself is a jet. So in this case, that is a metering jet, and it goes through here, but there's nothing that's removable, so we're not going to worry about it. Yeah, I'm going to take my air compressor, I'm going to blow through all these little crevices, coating here and there, and then we will be back. I got everything blown out. Let's go ahead and get everything put back together. So there's a little spring that fell, and the kit that I got actually comes with a new spring. So the little cap and the spring goes right there. In addition to that, I did clean out the little fuel cavity area because I did notice it was a little dirty, so I did that. So now I need to put on the diaphragm. Many times, all you need to do is this step here. However, it's not the easiest thing to do on the machine. It is easier to do it like this, so we're doing it like this. Because the majority of the time, it is the diaphragm that's causing the issue. Now, that's not the only issue, obviously, but it is some and the majority of them. So now that we have one on, that was a very minor tightening. This does not need to be very tight. In fact, if you over tighten it, you probably will damage it. So the impact may not be the best of ideas, but it was a very minor tightening. So let us put on the other one, other side. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it back together. I'm going to use the old gasket because it's not bad. And I'm just going to bring it back. It's just the exact opposite of me taking it apart. Okay, I lied. So, this spring actually goes right here. It's going to be next to impossible for me to show you with the actually put it on, but there's this little piece that looks like a T. It goes on there, and then the linkage that would usually be going to it goes right there, and that goes to the little black piece. So if you're confused, there's also a linkage that's already on the tank that has nothing to do with that. Don't even bother. It's just going to be a confusion. The linkage that you need to pay attention to is the I think it might have fallen or something, but don't worry about that one. We will discuss it later. And later came early. This is the linkage. Like I said, it came with the black piece, so we do need to put this right there, and if we don't, we will have a problem. I kind of like to shove it into like the intake or behind the exhaust or something, because all those linkages do have to be up. So in addition to that, this breather tube needs to go right there. So it's a whole lot of just nonsense. Okay, there we go. Linkages are good. We're gonna then, I don't think you can see it. Let's put you in a place you can. Okay, so we have one linkage right here, and this is the one I told you not to forget about or to have a problem with. So we're gonna put that one over here now, and now technically I should be able to bolt this tank on, which would be a great idea actually right now. Everything should be okay to connect. Just gonna put it in finger tight real quick. Oh. Okay, I need to put it on a little bit tighter. I'll be back. I made sure that little spring is there. We have one linkage, we have the kill wire, we have the other linkage. So we should be pretty good to go. Now we just need to put on all the little pieces. So I'm just going to back one. The linkage system on this is straight out of Germany. I'm sure. I mean, maybe it's not. Most people say it's probably not, but I'm thinking it probably is. So, because of that reason, it's kind of overly complicated. And for whatever reason, I cannot find that other, oh, there it is, bolt. that goes in here. I don't want to say it gets more complicated with others, but it could be. Now that we have that one in, I'm going to drop the bolt. I'm going to put in the one in the bottom in. I made sure this is a little loose because if it's not, it's just going to be a real pain to install. This next part is not exactly what I would say the fun part. So what we did need to do is we need to put in this metering screw. Forgot about that. Well, not really, but clean the tip a little bit. Like I said, I don't suspect it being that much of a problem right there. I think it's a diaphragm. It was pretty nasty. So we have half, we have one. Like I said, we're gonna do like 1.5 right there. Now we need to put on all the little pieces. I think one of the first things we'll do is we'll put this on. And this goes on here. Except I think it might go like this. There we go. So that goes with that screw that has like a little sleeve on it. It's kind of like an order of operations with this machine, and hopefully we're in the right order. It's actually been a few days, but I want to kind of show this. This is how the linkages are supposed to work. So this little piece gets screwed into that hole. This black piece is kind of the confusing part, but that's really the important part. So we need to make sure those linkages are exactly the way it is, and then we could put on the cover and it should be fine. So it was a little hard to see it originally because the camera was, you know, something around here, but this is how it should look. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the cover back on. It's just a couple screws and this wire, and then because it's been a couple days, the tank is actually completely dry, and we're looking at it, there's no rust whatsoever. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of fuel in there and we'll give it a pull. I thought it was done, but I'm actually gonna show you a couple other things. So when you put this on, this is how the choke linkage works, and you need to make sure that it actually works. So that's good. In addition to that, this piece right here, let's see if we can't, there we go. There's a little rod that goes through this little loop. You need to make sure you put that in there, because if you don't and you put everything together, nothing's gonna work. So before you put everything away, make sure both of those handles move, and then once they're moving and they're free and they're secure, tighten everything down if it's not already. And then you can put your cover, air filter on, and whatnot. And so just wanted to show that because this can be probably the most confusing part. It's all these little linkages. I thought this was in my mind's escaping me right now, the freewheel mode, neutral. But noticing the pins aren't actually in the wheels, so the wheels are just spinning on the shaft. So hopefully that's not a sign to come. But everything seems like it works. I also noticed that this is a little bit tore up. So I think before we do much of anything else, let's just try to bend this back if we can. We're gonna need some tools. Well, for the time being, it can just stay right there. We don't need it for the tines. So this is one of those engines that no matter how well you clean it, you're gonna have to pull it a few times. If it's more than like 6 or 7, we'll take the plug out, put a little starting fluid down the plug hole, and then we'll go from there. But let's give it a pull. Choke, run. not too concerning. Like I said, it needs to fill that little bowl up, so we very well could just be still in the middle of filling it up. It runs. So I did see the shaft spinning. The problem is this is a little gooey, or excuse me, sticky, but that shouldn't be a problem. Little WD-40 moving it around, it should be fine. But the engine runs. Something that is also nice to see that's not doing, it's not leaking at where we put the diaphragm. If that little door is warped at all, you'll have leaking, and then you can fix it, but it's kind of a pain. We're not going to go down that avenue. However, it should be ready to go. So I'm going to I'm going to lubricate those pivot points so we can turn it off. But even when I was putting the tines directly on the ground, they weren't stopping. I put a little pressure on them too. They're just scraping the concrete. That tells me it's pretty good. Obviously, the best way to test this out is in the garden. I'm not going to argue that. So, the only thing I kind of noticed, I think that we have a Bluetooth connection on that motor. So there is a bolt there, but I don't know if it has a nut, or potentially it's screwed directly into the base and it's stripped out. But I'm not going to worry you about that, just a bolt. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going and started, or used. Probably use it in there a couple weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you at that. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe. Definitely leave a thumbs up. If this helped you out, put a thumbs up. It helps me out as well. Catch you in the next video. You have a good night.